So welcome to the first of our summer webinar series. Today's session is AI, a teacher's assistant. And then I know that a lot of you are familiar with Learning.com, but for those of us who are not, before I bring on today's presenter, I just want to share a little bit about who we are. So we have been, we've had over 20 years of experience in education technology realm. And as you can imagine, computer science education looks a lot different today than it did 20 years ago. By bringing computer science, digital literacy, problem solving, and programming skills to students, we live our mission of helping prepare students for success in our digital world. So while our curriculum might help prepare students, today's session is all about you, the educator. So let's learn more about artificial intelligence, and I'll hand it off to today's presenter, our Director of Education, Dr. Kelli Erwin.
Great, thanks, Brianna. Hi, as Brianna said, I'm Dr. Kelli Erwin. I am the Director of Education for Learning.com. I'm actually a second career educator. I worked in marketing and the financial industry before becoming a teacher. There's a really long story back behind that. However, I did finally make it to where I wanted to be from starting back in college. It was just a long road to get here. I do have over 20 years in the field of education as not only a core subject area teacher, a tech apps teacher, a GT teacher, and a district administrator in the area of instructional technology. And I was lucky enough as I was going through my education career to use Learning.com curriculum all along the way. I've always looked for ways to use technology to assist me in the work I do, whether it was in my original career or in education. And this is really why I'm looking forward to sharing a little with you today about artificial intelligence. This is another one of those tools that has come about that I think has improved the way that I do my job. And I hope you find some tips today that will help you improve how you do your job. And I don't necessarily mean improve in changing the quality of work you do, but improve in giving you more time back in your day and what you do. So before we get started and I start talking, I do want to call out a couple of things. On the screen, you'll see a bit.ly link that will take you into a Google folder that has a copy of this slide deck and another resource with some additional information. If you'd rather access it via the QR code, you have that ability as well. So either way, that's where you'll find some of the information for today. So don't feel like you have to frantically take notes along the way. As Brianna mentioned, this is being recorded and the recording will be shared out after the fact. So before we dive in and we actually start talking about artificial intelligence, I'd like to get a little bit of an idea of your comfort level with AI. So we're going to start with a poll. If you would, you should see the poll launch automatically on your screen. And on a scale of 1 to 5, what is your level of comfort with using artificial intelligence in your classroom? Are you fearful of it? Or are you somewhere in the middle? Or are you just ready to go? Are you already integrating and this is something that's happening in your world? So we're going to give it a couple of minutes, or not minutes, but a couple of seconds for everybody to kind of get their votes in. It looks like right now, most of us are falling in the I would like to be, but I'm just not sure where to start phase, which seems about right for where we are today. So hopefully with today's session and as we move forward with what we're talking about, you'll find some tips that help you get started. They get you on the path along the way. For those of you that are already integrating, I hope you find some new tools along the way. We're going to talk about a few tools today. And then again, in the resources, there is a link to a wakelet that I've created that has a listing of quite a large variety of artificial intelligence tools. For those of you who are fearful or unsure, please don't worry, don't panic. This is going to be a session that will hopefully help get you going and get you on the right track. So I want to start out by just kind of taking a quick look at the agenda so that you know where we're headed and what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to kind of level set, make sure we all have a good understanding of what artificial intelligence is. We'll look at how AI can be an assistant to you. We'll talk about how to use prompts and prompt engineering, because that really is the key to making artificial intelligence your assistant along the way. We'll look at a few and talk about a few artificial intelligence tools. We'll talk about the ethics, how to use AI with students. And then, like Brianna said at the beginning, we'll kind of wrap up with questions at the end. All right, so like I said, I wanted to kind of level set before we got started. So let's start with the basics. Artificial intelligence, or AI, it refers to the ability really of machines to perform tasks that we would normally perform, or that requires human intelligence to perform whatever the task is. So things like learning, problem solving, decision making, language understanding, all of those kinds of things that we as humans do are things that the machine can do, right? So an AI system really is designed to analyze data. It looks for patterns, and it can make predictions or recommendations based on the data that it has access to. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but basically artificial intelligence, it mimics human capabilities. Bottom line, AI looks, like I said, for patterns, and it makes generalizations when it's providing a response to your prompt. Again, we're going to go into more details about that, but just kind of want to level set a little bit that this is where we're headed when we talk about artificial intelligence today. There are lots of different types of artificial intelligence, but basically the AI tools are divided into two main categories or types. There's narrow or weak, and then there's general or strong. Narrow or weak AI is designed to perform specific tasks, something that I promise you, you have used before. Things like virtual assistants, Siri, Alexa. Maybe you haven't used self-driving cars yet, but self-driving cars are also kind of a narrow or weak AI. Spell check, right? I know you've all used spell check at some point in time. That is also a narrow or a weak AI. ChatGPT is kind of the buzz right now, right? We hear a lot of people talking about it, whether it's in the field of education, it's on the news, it's in businesses, government. ChatGPT is a buzz, like I said. This is also considered a limited AI because it's a language processing model, right? So it's a large language model that looks at the probability of words within the vocabulary of the data set that it was given, and it uses that to select which word it should use next. And basically what that means is it's looking through the data to help it respond to what you've asked it. We're going to go into more detail about that in a little bit. Because we don't have a common general or strong AI tool for us to use, we're really going to kind of skip over that today. That's a different type of artificial intelligence that's called artificial general intelligence. And that type of AI would be capable of learning and adapting to solve for new problems by using reasoning and planning. So slightly different than just using the data set that it's given to provide some information or provide a response. An example of AGI that some of you may be familiar with, the movie WALL-E from back in 2008, that you can kind of tie that together to give you the visual connection on the difference. Artificial intelligence, not a new concept. Like I said, you've already been using it. This timeline shows us just how long machines have been helping us do things. Pascal brought us a calculating machine in 1642. Think about that for a second. A calculating machine. It's a tool that replaced a human being doing all of the math steps to calculate or solve a problem. Imagine how mathematicians might have felt about this new tool in their world. Now, fast forward to 1943. That's when we started learning about neural networks and drawing parallels between the brain and computing machines. Then in 1955, we finally had a name for this thing, a name for machines that are doing things that humans could do. That's when the term artificial intelligence was born. Then in 1993, we saw the first linked information system. A short while later, in 1997, a computer actually beat a world champion at playing chess. Some of you may have heard that story before. In 2011, IBM Watson, a computer, won Jeopardy. And by 2018, many universities actually had a course about artificial intelligence. Today, our world is abuzz with a variety of AI tools. I mentioned ChatGPT earlier, but there are, I wouldn't even start to guess a number of how many AI tools are out there now. But regardless, think about it for a moment. How many other times throughout history has a new tool raised some level of uncertainty or concern? All right, we're going to look at a little example, and you may not have really noticed the very small April 30th, 1993 date that was on the timeline that we just looked at. You may not have even caught the reference that I made to a linked information system, but there was much uncertainty about this tool too. So let's launch this, and I'm going to try to get you.
Prepare to translate that. As I was doing that little piece,
Oh,
that
that's
little
right.
mark with the A and then the ring around it.
At.
See, that's what I said. Kay said she thought it was about,
Yeah. Oh.
but I'd never heard it.
Around.
I'd never heard it said. I'd always seen the mark, but never heard it said. And then it sounded stupid when I said it. Violence at NBC.
I heard you around the lunchroom
See,
usually.
there it is. Violence at NBC. GE. I mean,
Well, Miss Wilson should know.
what
do you
is
say?
internet anyway?
Internet is that massive computer
Right.
network. The one becoming really big now.
What do you mean? That's big. Wait, how does one? What do you write to it like mail?
No, a lot of people use it and communicate. I guess they can communicate with NBC writers and producers. Allison, can you explain what internet is?
No, she can't say anything in 10 seconds or less.
Allison will be in the studio shortly.
What is it?
What does it mean?
It's a giant. Oh, I thought you were going to tell us what this was.
It's like
So look at the dictionary.
boards.
It's a computer billboard, but it's
Right.
it's several universities and everything all together.
Right.
And others can access it.
Right.
It's getting bigger and bigger.
It
Just
came in
great.
really handy during the quake. A lot of people, that's how they were communicating out to tell family and loved ones they were okay because all the phone lines were down.
I was telling Katie,
But you don't need that, you don't need a phone line to operate. No.
So while that may have seemed kind of funny to some of us who were around when this first happened, the concern and the confusion around this new internet thing, it was real. New tools raise concern and they bring uncertainty for the impact that they will have. Remember that just like the internet, artificial intelligence is a tool. How you use or don't use the tool really is what's going to determine its value and the impact that it has. So let's go back to focusing on artificial intelligence because that's really why we're here today. Though artificial intelligence has advanced over the years, it is just a tool. You will hear me say that several times. And remember, it is artificial. In order to learn, AI actually requires massive amounts of data input to train it. Our brains are like sponges, right? They absorb information from all of our experiences, learning and changing based on what we know, how we perceive things, what we feel, what we think, etc. Right? Over extended periods of time, we are able to use that information to make informed decisions. AI also learns, but it uses procedures to solve problems based on the data it has been given. Artificial intelligence learning, it evolves, but in a different way from our brains, and it lacks that emotional connection to the data because, remember, it is still a machine. I want to give kind of a more concrete example that hopefully will help you build a visual connection to kind of see understanding and thinking in a different way. So we're going to look at the Chinese room argument created by John Searle in 1980. Before I dive into what this is, I want to just make a quick call out. Both of the images on the screen that you see here were created using an artificial intelligence tool. I gave the tool specific prompts to return images that I wanted to use. These images that you see on the screen are not the initial images that I got when I started prompting. Again, we'll talk more about prompting in just a moment, but I want to call out that the person on the right-hand side and the person on the left-hand side are the two characters that I'm going to be talking about as I give you this example. So just kind of keep this visual in mind. A person who does not speak Chinese is sitting in a closed room. So the person on the right-hand side. In the room, there are several books with Chinese language rules, phrases, and instructions. The other person on the outside of the room, so the person on the left, is fluent in Chinese. This person passes written notes into the room. The notes are written in Chinese. With the help of the language phrase books, the person on the right, the one sitting in the room, can actually select the appropriate responses to, reply to the notes and pass it back to the Chinese speaker. The person inside the room was able to provide a response using the data they had. He or she still does not speak or understand Chinese. It was really just a simulation of understanding by taking the question that they were provided and matching what's in that question or statements with the appropriate responses from the resources they had available or the data this person had available. This is how artificial intelligence works too. We have provided, and we being not us necessarily on this call, but we in general, have provided artificial intelligence with language rules, phrases, instructions, and all sorts of other stuff so that it can respond to prompts that it is given. AI doesn't know the answers, but instead it uses resources or the data that it was given to respond with what it believes, notice I said it believes, is accurate information. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But hopefully this Chinese room argument kind of gives you a different kind of visual to connect and understand how artificial intelligence works. I've said it before, artificial intelligence is a tool. I'm gonna say that several times today. But the nice thing about this tool is that it can help you with productivity. AI can be used to complete a variety of repetitive tasks, which makes it useful as a teacher's assistant. Now, when we were talking earlier, looking through the chat scroll, we don't just have teachers here today. So I'm going to change what I said. It's not just a teacher's assistant, like what we put in the title for today's session. This tool can be assistant for anybody, right? It's how you use artificial intelligence. That's going to really be what determines where you need the assistance, or where you need the assistance rather is going to be what kind of determines how you use artificial intelligence. For our next poll, I'm really kind of curious about where you think you could use some help. So we're going to pop another poll up on the screen for you, and I want you to think about it. Of the following classroom tasks, which one would you most appreciate having help to complete? If you're a district administrator, think about the people that you work with. How do you think they would answer it? So we're going to give a couple of seconds and kind of see what people think. And then I'll do the big reveal and move the blue box. Oh, wow. So we are all over the place with this as I'm looking at the poll. So as soon as I tell you what it says, it's going to change on me. But right now, it looks like writing lesson plans tends to be in the lead, closely followed by designing hooks for a learning experience, providing feedback on student work and creating rubrics are kind of tied, and then drafting parent communication. Excellent. Well, the good news is all of those are areas that have an artificial intelligence tool or AI tool that can help you out. In addition to the tasks from the poll, I've included many more tasks listed here. Things like automated grading, writing vocabulary terms and definitions, differentiation, tailored to individual student needs. I want to call out that anytime you use AI to help you, the results still require human review. AI can help you save time and help you be more efficient so that you can spend more time working with and supporting your students. But really think about artificial intelligence as kind of your thought partner in education. I'm not going to say a co-teacher. I'm not going to say, your teaching partner that you share a classroom with. But what I will say is this. Artificial intelligence can help spark ideas. It can help get you going down the road to what you need help with. But the bottom line, and I'll say it again, it still requires that human element, right? You should never take what artificial intelligence responds to you with as the definitive response. Always go in and check to verify the information that it's shared. And we'll go into that in a minute, a little more in detail. Getting time-saving assistance always sounds great, right? Who doesn't want to be more efficient and more productive with their tasks? And then in the end, have time in their day to do just whatever, do other things. But when it comes to getting assistance, it's always about how you ask for the help. When I had a parent volunteer in my classroom, I knew I had to give very specific instructions for what I needed help with. I needed to talk about how the work needed to be completed, what I needed it to look like, what was the end purpose for whatever it was that I was asking for help. I had to give very specific instructions or details. If I left out any of the details, well, chances are I would not have gotten exactly what I needed. It's no different with artificial intelligence and using it as an assistant. The prompt is what gets you the help you need. The output or the response that you are going to receive from artificial intelligence, it is only as good as the input or the prompt that you give it. The artificial intelligence tool is going to help you based on how you ask it for help. So the prompt is what you type to get your AI assistant thinking about how to respond to you. Remember, AI is programmed to analyze data, recognize patterns, and make predictions or recommendations based on that data. So your prompt must give direction on what data your AI assistant will look into. You need to be specific with the details you provide in your prompt. You need to say things in a natural way, using proper grammar. Use the tone and style in your prompt that you want the AI to use when it gives you a response. Last but not least, give the AI a job or a role to guide how it responds. We're going to talk about this in just a minute. We're going to look at some examples, but bottom line, remember that the artificial intelligence tool is just a tool, and you are using it to help you improve or enhance something that you're trying to do. Before we discuss how to write prompts and look at examples, I want to remind you to be safe online and not put personal information into the AI tools that you use. Now, let's look at a couple of examples of prompts so that you can see the difference between just a basic prompt and a more detailed prompt. This first one that we're looking at, the basic prompt, I might ask this artificial intelligence tool to summarize an article for me. That's great. I provide it with the article or the link to the article, and it'll give me a summary. It may not give me exactly what I need in my summary because just saying summarize this article, that's pretty broad. A better prompt might be write a 500-word summary of this article. So I've now told the artificial intelligence tool exactly how many words I need to appear in this article. Even though that's a better prompt, that's still a pretty wide opening for the summary. So as you go through the process of learning how to prompt engineer, You will learn how to iterate and ask better questions along the way. An even better prompt might be, write a 500-word summary of this article based on an 8th grade reading level and do it in the style of Shakespeare. Okay, nobody would really want it that way, but that's just an example of a way that you could improve or add more detail to a prompt. Another example, a basic prompt. I need a rubric to help me grade presentation projects. If I were to feed that to the artificial intelligence tool, it doesn't know what type of presentation projects. It doesn't know if it's a kindergarten student creating a presentation project or a college student, right? I haven't given it enough information to really provide me with what I need. So a better prompt might be, create a rubric to help me grade 5th grade projects where students must use presentation software to teach others about online safety. You will get responses from both types of prompts, regardless of which way it was written. But when you give details, you will get more relevant responses. Never be afraid to clarify or build on the response you receive. Like I said a moment ago, prompts can be iterative as needed. As you're going through and you are learning to ask artificial intelligence tools for help, you are learning along the way too, because you're going to start to see which types of questions or which types of prompts generate different types of information. Once you get one response, it doesn't mean you can't clarify or ask again or ask in a different way. So prompt engineering is the key. It really is what helps you let your assistant know how to help you. So let's look at a different example, right? This example is from me using Starry AI. I put in prompts because I wanted it to generate images from text. I selected photo as my option for the image output. This particular tool, Starry AI, gives you a couple of different varieties of styles of images that you can have it generate in. For this case, I wanted it to look like a photo. My goal was to have a discussion starter hook, and I didn't really have any pictures for what I needed. While yes, I certainly could have gone out to the internet, I could have done a search for images. I really wanted to generate something that would facilitate the conversation, but I also wanted to be able to say, hey, this image was created using an artificial intelligence tool. So not only would it grab interest because hopefully it would hook them into the conversation, but also it would hook someone in because of how the image was created. The first prompt I used, the one that's on the left, I consider it really just to be a basic prompt. It did result in the 4 images on the left. 1 prompt, 4 images. The prompt on the right was more detailed based on what I was actually looking for. In this prompt on the right, I included 4th grade, and the AI generated images that included students that kind of look like they're around the same age as a 4th grade student. The way you write your prompt, whether for text or image generation or anything, right? Anytime you write your prompt, how you write it is going to impact the responses that you receive. If you don't get exactly what you're looking for, like I said a moment ago, stop, rethink how you wrote your prompt, and give more details or just ask the prompt in a different way. This is a really text-heavy screen right now, and I apologize for that, but I wanted to make sure you had this information in the slide deck that's been shared with you. When you write a prompt, it can take on a variety of different elements and have a variety of intended outputs. You've seen different styles of prompts in my examples that we've talked about. We didn't cover asking directly a question to get a response, but you can do that too. It's kind of sky's the limit for what you can ask for. But regardless, you always should provide instructions, give your request context, and identify the type of output that you need. Remember that prompt writing is a process, and that process is going to improve as you go and as you learn more about how to ask your artificial intelligence assistant for help. Just as we teach students about keywords and context clues, I want to call out that we also need to be aware of the same thing when we're writing prompts. The words we use and the context we give the tool really truly does impact the response that you receive back from that tool. We'll look at some common expressions next. Again, another text heavy one. These next couple of slides are text heavy. And again, I apologize, not my favorite way to do it, but I really wanted to give you some examples that were concrete. So these are some prompt starters or key expressions to help you get started writing your own prompts. Today's session is about how AI can be your assistant, but I will call out, and I know you've heard this before, we really are each other's best resource in education, and we don't have to recreate the wheel with this. There are many in education who have already been using artificial intelligence, and they've tested out or used AI as an assistant. And what that means is they've improved the prompts that they've been using over time. These 4 key expressions will really help kickstart your prompt engineering adventure. Let's think step by step. You are telling the artificial intelligence tool to think logically or look for patterns, find a process to help problem solve. As a blank, whatever profession, role, whatever you want to do, it helps kind of the artificial intelligence tool think about putting its response in a certain style or a certain frame. It also helps the tool know what it knows and what it doesn't know. Translate the text below into whatever language, and then if you do text with a colon and put whatever the text is, it will translate as long as you're using a tool that has that data set built in. I will say this, I highly encourage you that if you use any of the artificial intelligence tools for translation purposes, don't take it as the end-all be-all correct translation. You always want to have a native speaker or someone who reads the language review whatever is translated for you, just like you would do with anything else. You might also use the key expression in the style of blank, a famous person or a student with a specific grade level. Again, it's going to kind of help the artificial intelligence tool use a certain tone or style in the response that it gives you. Bottom line, find the ways that AI can help you in what you do. Start small. Pick one thing that you want help with. As you become more comfortable with artificial intelligence and where you realize that it can help you, you will find new ways to use your assistant to help you along the way. All right, this is the last really text-heavy kind of screen here. But the key expressions that I shared, they are more universal, right? Whereas these 4 prompts right here on the screen, these definitely are prompts that you could use in the classroom. Generate X number of discussion prompts for whatever grade level students to focus on whatever topic. So example, generate 5 discussion prompts for 7th grade students that focus on Texas history. Fill in the blanks. These are standard prompts that you can have just kind of off to your side in your toolkit that you can use anytime you need. Another one might be, what are blank number of real world examples or scenarios that I can share with my whatever grade level students to help them learn about whatever topic. So you get the idea. Fill in the blanks where you need to. Generate a visual infographic that summarizes the key concepts of or in some topic for my whatever grade level students to use as a study guide. And the last example I'll give you for a teacher prompt is, what are X number of ideas for assessing whatever grade level students' knowledge and skills about whatever topic? that are not quizzes or tests. So this kind of a prompt is going to give you some suggestions and ideas for other kinds of projects, other things that students can do to demonstrate their learning. There is a Wakelet resource that is included with the materials being shared in the Google folder as part of this session. There is one of the resources, here I'll just pull it up, one of the resources that is being shared with you all. Oops. If I can move my screen over here. One of the resources that is being shared on this Wakelet actually includes, some starter prompts for teachers, something that can help you along the way. This listing of 100 prompts, I just zapped it away, sorry. The listing of the 100 prompts that you see here was created by Alice Keeler. And so again, like I said, when we are looking for resources, we are each other's best resource. She has put together prompts that cover all sorts of things that might help you. Anything from interacting with parents, creating learning materials, differentiating instruction, providing feedback. There are all sorts of prompts in there that you have access to where, again, you don't have to recreate the wheel. And if you're new to this, it can help get you started. The one thing that I will call out that is probably the most important thing throughout this whole conversation today is that your district or your campus will likely have some type of guidelines or policies that will impact how you use artificial intelligence, whether it's you using it to create things or it's you using it with students, regardless. Just be aware as you continue on this journey so that you know what the guidelines, policies, etc. are for you to be using artificial intelligence. And the other thing that I will say is just remember, you do not need to try everything all at once. Start simple. Here I go again. Artificial intelligence is a tool, right? It uses data to respond to your prompts. Some of the responses that you are going to get are fantastic. They will spark ideas. They will be just what you need. Some of them, on the other hand, not so much. Artificial intelligence can hallucinate. That is the actual term for what happens. And what it means is the tool will give you incorrect information. It may not know the answer or how to respond to whatever it is that you ask it, but it's going to act like it does, and it's going to give you something. So always review what the tool gives you as a response. Use your good kind of teacher skills, right, to verify the information you are given, just like you would do any other time that someone gives you information that you're about to share with your students or you're going to share with your parents or your colleagues. You always want to verify that information first. It's great to ask your artificial intelligence tool for citations when you write your prompts. It will likely give you something. Always go back and check those provided resources and verify that they are valid resources. Just because it's written in a style that looks right and it seems like it might be a valid source, please go verify before you share or use whatever's given to you. It is good practice to ask follow-up questions after your initial prompt. And if you do this in a way that you are trying to build on the information that was given to you, it's a great way for you to identify any gaps in understanding. And by that, I mean in the data that maybe was used to train the artificial intelligence tool. So again, always review, verify the responses that you get, and then ask follow-up questions along the way. There are so many artificial intelligence tools out there, and it really can be hard to determine which ones to use. I'm going to talk through just a few tools here. And then again, in the resources being shared as part of the webinar, you're going to see many, many more tools on that Wakelet. Today, I'm just going to call out these few tools here. Codebreaker, ChatGPT, and Perplexity. These are all large language models of artificial intelligence that communicate with you in a human-like way. The neat thing about the Codebreaker EDU Byte is that it was created specifically for use in education. While ChatGPT, I don't know why I can't ever say this, ChatGPT was created really for anyone, right? Perplexity is a tool that does provide responses with sources for the information. But like I said, a minute ago, always check your sources. You can ask the AI tools that you use to provide you with sources. With all of the AI tools, I want to say this again, please be safe with what you share and do not include any personally identifiable information. Whether that's for you, whether it's your students, whether it's about your school, just don't put in any information that you do not want the AI model to store or to learn from or to remember. Okay, I've said that. Be safe online. Parlay Genie is another tool that I'd like to introduce you to. This one's really kind of neat because it creates discussion prompts for you to use with students based on either like a customized topic that you've put in or a URL. And this is kind of a really neat one, not only to use with your students, but also for professional development for teachers. Another tool is Got Feedback, and this tool generates more personalized feedback based on like a Word document or a PDF file that you upload into the tool, or even just text that's copied and pasted into the tool. Each of these tools can be used to assist you in being efficient with your time so that you can focus more on your students and their learning. One of the resources, I've mentioned it a couple of times, is the Wakelet, right? And the Wakelet that I've shared with you all today has a lot more artificial intelligence tools that you might find useful. I will say this, whatever tools you find to use, whether it's the ones that I've shared, things that you find online, just be sure you understand your district or campus policy for using this tool for education purposes in the classroom, for creating communication with parents, however you decide to use the tool. And then again, always verify the results that you get. I want to take just a couple of moments to show some examples of some of these tools that I've just talked about. So this first tool, I went ahead and did this earlier just so that we would have it for the sake of time. This is the Codebreaker EDU Byte tool. And again, like I said, it's an artificial intelligence space that really was designed to use in education. The Byte starts out by asking me how it can help me. I asked it to create a field trip permission slip for my 4th grade class to go to Space Center Houston so that they could learn about how coding is used in space exploration. The Byte took about, I think it was maybe about 45 seconds to generate this permission slip letter for me. Now, I have not gone through and reviewed it like I asked you guys to do before sharing, because just for the sake of time, I just kind of wanted you to see it. So you can see that it starts out, dear parents and guardians. It's talking about announcing the field trip. You'll notice that it has some spaces in here where I, as the teacher, need to go back in and insert information. That tells me a couple of things. One, it tells me that the artificial intelligence tool is aware enough to know that there should be a date here to give parents a little more information. It also lets me know that maybe the prompt that I used wasn't exactly as full of detailed information as it should be, right? So you'll see a couple of times throughout here, I didn't put the date in, I didn't say where we were leaving from, I didn't say when we were leaving or coming back. So there were some things that I didn't do just right with this prompt to get what I needed. However, I will say this, the tool creating a permission slip for me in 45 seconds is far faster than me sitting down, thinking about it, starting to type it up myself. I can save time by starting with this and going in and modifying the way I need to. Another tool that I talked about is Got Feedback. And this is the one where I was saying you can upload a Word document or a PDF. Obviously, do not include any personally identifiable information about your students. However, when you use this tool and you input, it will spit back. That's not the right way to say it. It will respond to you with some more personalized feedback that you can use and share with your students. The last one that I'll show you real quick is Parlay Genie. This is one of my favorites. And this is the one that I was saying that you can take either an article or a topic or a URL, and it'll throw out some discussion questions for you. So let me kind of show you. I'm just going to grab an article off of the Learning.com website. So I'm going to copy the URL. I'm going to jump back into Parlay Genie. I'm going to, switch over, and nothing wants to work for me, of course. There it goes. There it goes. So I'm going to switch over to the URL. I'm going to paste that link that I just copied. For our sake today, I'm going to ask it to create, I don't know. Okay, we'll stick with 3 questions. That seems to be what it wants to do, but you can put in the number of questions that you would like to use. You can tell it what grade level you want these questions to be for. Let's do 7th or 8th grade. I don't know. And then when you ask it to generate the prompt, what it does is it goes out to that URL, or it searches through whatever the material is that you gave it. And it will come back, it'll analyze the data, and it'll come back with some discussion questions that you can use. So let's see, our topic was the science of learning, looking at memory science in your classroom. And the discussion questions that it came back with: what are the long-term competencies and skills that schools should be focusing on in order to prepare students for jobs that don't yet exist? So you can see it's come back and it's written the questions based on the reading level. And these are questions, again, that pulled directly from the article, in this case, that was shared with Parlay Genie. So that's just one set of some of the examples that you have access to on the Wakelet. I do encourage you to go in and explore, right? Find what works best for you to use in your classroom. I would be remiss if I didn't kind of bring up the ethics of using artificial intelligence. And while it definitely has some benefits, like any other tool or device we use, there are definitely ethical considerations that come with using artificial intelligence. Whether you're using it to create content or answer a question, create an image, whatever it is that you're trying to do, we and our students must be smart with what we do. All of the artificial intelligence tools are trained with data sets, just like we've talked about earlier. But someone somewhere had to select or gather the data set to use. Information literacy is a critical skill when using artificial intelligence, as there is the potential for bias and inaccurate information to be provided in the results that are given. So knowing what to or not to include in a prompt definitely will impact your privacy, whether it's a student or an adult. So just be smart with how you use these tools. Remember that artificial intelligence tools update and learn based on the information that they are given, right? So the questions that you ask, the prompts that you give it, any information that you feed in, you just have to keep in mind that it remembers, right? So you have to take steps to protect your privacy and the privacy of your students. I feel like a little bit of a broken record here with that, but I think you understand why. Artificial intelligence tools are known to have hallucinations, like I said earlier, where the artificial intelligence tool just guesses because it doesn't have the data set with information needed to give you accurate responses. So use the artificial intelligence tools as your assistant, but be smart with what you share, just as you would do with any volunteer that walks into your school, that walks into your classroom to help you. Again, Please learn about your district or campus policies. Have a plan in place so that artificial intelligence can ethically and safely be used to help you and your students when you need it. We're at our last topic for today, but I didn't want to leave out using artificial intelligence with your students because it can be used to enhance their learning experience. Things like providing personalized recommendations for further study, creating interactive simulations. There are all sorts of things that it can do, even help build kind of a bridge into higher learning and critical thinking. There are benefits and challenges, most definitely, to allowing students to use artificial intelligence in the classroom. And I know, here comes the broken record again. Please follow your district's or campus's guidelines and policies about using AI with students. Because artificial intelligence is a tool that exists, many students have already tested it out in some form. It's important for us to make sure our students understand what artificial intelligence is, when and why they should or should not use it, and how to responsibly interact with artificial intelligence. I feel like in the past, we probably said the exact same thing about just the internet in general. Our students' futures are in our hands. If we can find ways to give us more time to help meet their needs, then we are one step closer to helping them on their journey, right? Let artificial intelligence be your teacher assistant so that you can focus on what matters most. And what matters most really is your students. If you missed the link to the materials being shared today, it was at the beginning of the slide deck. It's also scattered in chat, but you can access all of the materials via the bit.ly or the QR code here. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I hope that you feel better prepared to begin your journey with artificial intelligence as your teacher assistant. Brianna, I'll pass it back to you in case we have questions and if you want to wrap up.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, we do have a couple questions.
Okay.
The first one is, are AI images copywritten?
That is a great question. And here's the deal with anything with artificial intelligence, including the images. The way copyright law is written right now is it really has to have a human involved in order to put a copyright on it. Now, that being said, if you use artificial intelligence to create some image, it doesn't mean it's a free-for-all. You still need to cite that that's where that image came from. But no, you can't put a copyright on artificial intelligence created images. That's a great question.
Thank you. And then the next one is, who's going to be buying this AI, the teacher or the school district?
Well, that depends on district policy to some extent, right? There are many artificial intelligence tools that are out there for free, so nobody has to buy it. But there are some that that definitely have fees associated with them. So who will be the one selecting it? It really does need to be something that a district discusses and puts in place a process, a policy, procedures for identifying which tools should or shouldn't be used. I'll give you an example. Here at Learning.com, we actually have a team that we have put together. We call it our AI team. And we actually go through and evaluate tools that we have identified or that other people in the company have identified as potentially helping save them some time or being more efficient and productive. So we actually have a policy that we have put in place within the company for the tools that we use and how we use them.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, the next question. Can you recommend a search engine other than Google?
I feel like that puts me on the spot. There are a variety of search engines out there. I don't want to call out a specific company or praise a certain or not company. But do know that, Microsoft has Bing, we have Google, we have Firefox. So there's all sorts of different search engines out there. I will say, I think on the Wakelet that we'll get all that straightened out for you guys and get that out to you. But if I remember right, I think on the Wakelet, I put a link to a resource that kind of compiles a whole bunch of different artificial intelligence tools that can help you as well.
Fantastic. How can we make sure that the student is learning and not just passing on the AI content as their own? And I do actually see that someone in the chat put a link to an AI text classifier.
Oh, I see that.
Yeah.
Okay, so here I have a couple of answers to this. One, we're teachers. Classroom management is our thing. How do we make sure students don't just repeat information that they've read in the textbook as opposed to learning, right? There's a whole science behind how students learn and how they make connections in their brain to remember what they've learned. That's actually one of my favorite subjects in life. And I could go on for hours about that one. But the bottom line is, do what you know to do as a teacher that helps students remember what you are teaching them. Now, if we are talking about a concern of plagiarism, that's a whole different conversation, but I will say this, artificial intelligence is advancing, right? It is advancing quickly. And while there are checkers that are out there that try to help determine if text was generated through artificial intelligence, I'm not 100% confident that I can say it keeps up with it. So what I will say is this: students historically have plagiarized. We know that. That's why we teach them how not to plagiarize. It's the same concept here. It's that information literacy. It's learning and understanding how to do research online or in your old atlas or in, going to the library. It's all of the good things that we teach students to do. It's no different with artificial intelligence. So if we can get ahead of this and teach them the good, the bad, the indifferent, that's how we get ahead of the game.
Okay, and then we have one last question. How is AI going to how is AI going to help students to read at or above their grade level?
So there's actually some pretty cool tools out there that are designed specifically for that purpose, that are artificial intelligence tools. I won't promote any of them because they are paid tools, and I don't want to call out again one company over another. But what I will say is this: one of the cool things about artificial intelligence, and I think I mentioned it earlier, is with these tools, you can tell it to write something at a specific reading level, right? So you can write it at an advanced level or a level where students are still learning, and you can utilize that with them along the way. Another thing that you can keep in mind is there are some tools that will read, right? I mean, there are text-to-speech tools that have been around for a long time, those are great for helping students. There are also tools where you can have the students record themselves reading, right? So there's a variety of different things that you can use out there.
Fantastic. Okay, that was, let me check one more time. But thank you so much, Kelly, and thank you so much to all of our attendees. And there are 2 more additional webinars in our summer webinar series. So be sure to register for those so you can join us for more summer learning. Thank you so much, everyone.